Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking something we all know way too well: overthinking. We're going to deconstruct the anxious mind, looking at the hard science and psychology behind it. Because let's be real, your brain shouldn't be burning 40% of its energy analyzing a slightly awkward handshake from 2014, right? If you've ever wished your brain came with an off switch, you're in exactly the right place.
So, why does a simple delayed reply send your mind spinning with 50 negative possibilities? We've all been there, and it's just exhausting. You know the feeling, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, absolutely spiraling over text you sent 3 hours ago, or maybe dissecting a random conversation from 5 years ago. Your body is technically resting, but man, your mind is running a full marathon. It feels totally impossible to stop.
But look at this brilliant framing. An overactive mind isn't a personal failure, it's a nervous system that needs support and strategy. I absolutely love this because it's not just empathetic, it's scientifically accurate. You're overthinking? It's not a character flaw. You're not just weak or neurotic. What you're experiencing is a deeply ingrained neurological pattern. Your body is actually functioning exactly how it was wired to. It just desperately needs a new set of instructions.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at the overthinking loop. Then we'll go inside the overactive brain, explore the echoes of childhood trauma, discuss personality and your thoughts, and finally wrap up with some evidence-based coping strategies.
Section 1. The Overthinking Loop, Stuck in Overdrive.
When we talk about rumination, we aren't just talking about, thinking too much. Research shows it's this highly complex interaction between your mind, your emotions, your brain, and your behavior. We're talking racing or intrusive thoughts, excessive worry, difficulty relaxing or sleeping, total mental exhaustion, and trouble focusing on the present moment. Basically, your brain is desperately trying to gain predictability and control. It genuinely thinks that if it just analyzes a problem from one more angle, you'll finally be safe. But instead of finding a solution, you just get stuck in this exhausting loop.
Moving on to Section 2. Inside the Overactive Brain, a Neurological Breakdown.
Now, what's really interesting here is deconstructing the actual machinery at work. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. Meet your default mode network, or the DMN. Think of the DMN as your brain's default playlist. It naturally switches on during self-reflection or when you're daydreaming. But when you're overthinking, oh man, this network goes into absolute overdrive. It drags you into these endless what if and why did I say that spirals. It's literally like a terrible playlist of past regrets and future worries that you just can't skip.
And while your DMN is spinning, this little almond-shaped structure is sounding the alarm. The amygdala is essentially the brain's smoke detector. It's constantly scanning your environment for threats. So when you overthink, a hyperactive amygdala treats a stressful thought, like, say, that delayed text message, as a physical danger. It triggers your fight-or-flight response. That's exactly why lying in bed worrying can give you a racing heart and a tight chest. Your brain literally thinks there's a tiger in the room.
This perfectly captures the internal war happening inside your head. On one side, you have the prefrontal cortex. That's your logical thinking brain. It's acting like an overloaded calculator, desperately trying to logically solve your feelings like they're math problems, which just leads to analysis paralysis. On the other side is the amygdala, the panicked alarm system, reacting to perceived threats and trapping your body in fight or flight. You've basically got an overwhelmed thinking brain trying to rationalize with a terrified emotional brain.
Section 3. Echoes of Childhood Trauma, How the Brain Remembers Fear.
So why is that alarm system so sensitive for some of us in the first place? To answer that, we have to look at root causes. Past experiences can permanently wire this system. Now, the crucial point is, when we hear childhood trauma, we usually picture something catastrophic. But look at these subtle forms. Parents constantly arguing, hearing you can't do anything right, feeling like you have to perform perfectly just to earn love, or even simple emotional distance. When a child experiences these things, the hippocampus, the brain's memory center, actually stores these subtle wounds as literal danger.
And because of those experiences, a child's amygdala gets switched on and just stays on. As that child grows into an adult, those wounds create a default unconscious belief. Something will definitely go wrong. If you didn't feel safe as a kid, your brain learned to always expect the worst in every single situation just to protect you. That expectation of disaster, that's the very foundation of adult overthinking.
Section 4. Personality and your thoughts. The role of neuroticism.
Aside from our past, our inherent personality traits play a massive role in shaping our daily mental patterns, specifically a trait called neuroticism. If you look at folks with high neuroticism, their emotional responses are filled with strong worry, guilt, and self-criticism. This acts as a mental vulnerability, leading straight into high rumination and persistent anxiety. It intensifies the whole overthinking cycle. In contrast, those with lower neuroticism tend to process challenges in a more emotionally stable, relaxed way. Understanding where you fall on this spectrum is super important because it highlights exactly why we need personalized, tailored coping techniques.
Which brings us to Section 5, Evidence-Based Coping Strategies, Reclaiming Your Mind.
Okay, we've deconstructed the problem. Now it's time for the reconstructive phase. I'm so excited to share these actionable tools with you. First up is an incredible cognitive behavioral therapy tool called Scheduled Worry Time, or Worry Postponement. Since your overactive mind feels like it has to think all the time to keep you safe, you actually schedule a specific 15 to 20-minute window every single day purely for worrying. When a worry pops up outside that window, you write it down and literally tell your brain, we're going to handle this at 4 p.m. It's amazing how this contains your worries and restores your sense of control.
Next, we have quick grounding interventions. When your mind is racing, your nervous system is on fire, so we need to anchor you physically in the present. You can try box breathing, inhaling, holding, exhaling, and holding for 4 counts each to calm your heart rate. You could do a full body scan, slowly shifting your attention from your head down to your toes. Or try thought labeling, simply calling a thought a worry thought. This creates immediate psychological distance so you don't get swept away. These instantly activate your body's natural rest response.
Let's see how this builds into one of the most widely taught methods out there, the 5-4-3-2-1 sensory technique. When you're caught in a spiral, stop. Name 5 things you see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you hear, 2 you smell, and 1 you can taste. But here's the secret sauce. You have to use detailed descriptions. Don't just say, I see a desk. Say, I see the light brown, scratched grain of the wood on my desk. That heavy sensory detail is exactly what successfully interrupts the default mode network's thought spiral.
I want to leave you with this absolute truth. You have the power to regain calm, clarity, and control. Overthinking is not a life sentence, guys. It's simply a manageable nervous system response. When you understand the brain science, when you recognize your triggers, and when you utilize these evidence-based tools, you really can rewrite your brain's default playlist. So, here's my final question for you. Which of these evidence-based tools will you use to quiet your mind today? Will it be scheduled worry time, box breathing, or that 5-4-3-2-1 method? Pick one, try it out, and start reclaiming your mind. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep growing, and I'll catch you in the next one.